Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I have a special guest here in the studio, Lee Alfred, the principal of Paris Lake High School. Thank you so much for being here, Lee.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and a part of the new project, some exciting things coming, so thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is a very special professional development because we get to talk about really these overarching themes, right? Of like affirming others, like forgiving ourselves, and then taking note and inventory of what we need to do to move forward. But before we get to all of that, I really want to ask you, what are some of the amazing things that you've seen happen within your community? And then also what you've seen outside of your community, just within the district, all the incredible work that other people are doing.
Yeah. It's funny because I have kind of going back a history with Paris, even stemming back to my dad as a child coming from Texas with his family and building their first house in Paris. So my love for Paris goes way back to childhood, and to come back in education and be able to give back to the community where I know that my family was here so many years ago is really important. Paris is a really wonderful community in the sense where they pull together and Paris Union, the district itself, and how we get involved in what we do. And I've been able to experience that through many different lenses. Coming to Paris High School and the opportunity to be a counselor there. And as a counselor, you look at things from one perspective and a certain lens of the need of students and the staff and the community. And then be able to shift and look at that through the lens of an administrator within the district, but now no longer being in the community of Paris, but now being over in Menifee and what that looks like. But what that overarching goal becomes of like, okay, what are we still doing for all of our students in the community? And that's what's been wonderful about Paris is that they're highly involved. The district itself, the community, they stay connected with the city council and things like that to make sure that they're giving back, that they're involved in these things, making sure that we are partnering with projects like yours, with the new, like how are we taking things to the next level? When I first started with the Paris Union, we were one of the first districts in the whole state to go one-to-one with computers, and people were fascinated by that when I told them that that's what we were doing. So it always felt like we were a district and a community that was kind of cutting edge. We were thinking ahead. We were trying to make sure that we were giving our students what they needed to prepare for what the future looked like. And so that's one of the things that I'm really excited about, the community and the district in itself, is that they're always ready to be ahead of the game and what's next and work together to get it there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, very similar story. Like I am so proud of all the students, the parents, the teachers, the administration, everybody top to bottom who allows this district to be so special. I mean, I know the overarching theme for this conversation is really health and wellness, and ways that we can sort of not only encourage one another, but we can reflect on all the incredible work that we are doing within this district to say, hey, listen, what you're seeing doesn't go like unnoticed. Like I recognize at times you may feel like you kind of get lost in the background, but it doesn't go unnoticed by these administrators and by the students and the parents. And it's such a special moment because the next thing I want to ask you about really has to do with this word like affirm. Like what does the word affirm mean? And how can we do that a little bit better? Now, I know towards the end of this talk, we're going to sort of give a challenge to everyone, but nonetheless, like affirming others, like what are some of the ways that you're trying to affirm others, and how would you also encourage others to just acknowledge the good works that other people are doing within your school or the surrounding schools?
Well, it's interesting because as you say that, and thinking about the word affirm, recently I read the book, The 5 Love Languages, for marriage. Not that I'm having any trouble in my marriage, but I always thought that if things are fine, and I can read or grow in this area, how much more can I bring, to the growth of myself as an individual or my wife? And after reading that book, and you think about, everybody has the different love languages of, affirmation and gifts and things like that. I thought about it in my leadership role of a principal. Okay, now if I apply those things of these rules of what people need in order to be inspired or to feel needed or wanted, And affirmation was one of those ones of like, okay, what is it within affirmation that now I can take from that and provide to the staff in affirming what they do? And the reason why I reference that book is because I also had to think about, okay, but affirmation is just one way that some people appreciate, hey, being acknowledged what they do or what they need, you know, and there's different love languages, so to speak, right, of what people need. But I started taking that approach of like, okay, if I can do that in my own relationship, and now I can apply that with my staff to make sure that I'm affirming them in the areas of their strength, because every teacher, every staff member from custodial to my front office staff, everyone plays a vital role in what they do at our campus. Right. So it also became the awareness of me of a leader, making sure that I wasn't trying to affirm everybody in the exact same way.
Right.
But identifying what is your individual strength, Juan? What do I see that you do differently every day with the students in your classroom? All those type of things, and making sure that I was being very specific in my affirmation to them. Hey, really nice job with Juan today out on the playground. I noticed that how you spend time with him. We have a wellness center, you know, that we have on our campus. And so a lot of the teachers have embraced that. And so kind of acknowledging them of saying, I really appreciate how you're paying attention to the needs of the students. Again, being very, very specific in what I've noticed about that. So I think that when I think about affirmation, it's really being focused on what are the details of each individual and affirming them in a way that is making them feel appreciated. Wow, they really notice that this is what I do in my classroom. He paid attention that I'm standing outside my door greeting the students. He paid attention that I walked with that student, you know, from end to end on class and got them over to the wellness center. You're paying attention to the details of what they're doing. So I think that affirmation is really about making sure that it's individualized in a sense that I'm not just telling the whole staff through an email or an announcement, hey, good job yesterday, everybody, you know, on just a blanket statement, right. But making sure that I spend the time, and I can do that because I have a small campus too. Right. So it's easy for me to be able to go and talk with my teachers and individuals, all the staff members, but just making sure that when I do that, it's very, very individualized.
I love that. You know, affirming others is so important, right? We talk a lot about wanting to build a more cohesive community, right? Yeah. And we know that there's multiple different schools a part of this district. However, within our own school, we become like this family. And sometimes you even, unfortunately, fight like your family. And but the reality is, in order to move forward, in order for us to be better leaders, we have to take inventory of what we need in our life. And I think when we talk about health and wellness and we talk about what we can do to move forward, especially during the second semester, is at least acknowledging, like if I know you're struggling in something, don't be afraid to share with someone that you're struggling in something. Yeah. And then also being able to identify where you as a leader can just offer that branch of help, you know, just that branch that says, hey, listen, I'm an extension of you if you need a break or you need some time. And I know that when we talk about this, it's always easier said than done, right? But just to remind us all that we should be here for each other, I think is really huge, so that we can kind of, no matter what we're going through with our classes or even our independent life, that we're one family here at the Parish Union High School District, and that we can be there to serve one another, because that's why we got into this job in the first place, is to serve one another. Another question I have for you, and forgiveness has been this sort of topic of like, well, what exactly do I mean when it comes to forgiveness? And I touched about this in the keynote, but you know, I want to hear from you. What does forgiveness look like for yourself, right? Because we always talk about forgiving others, but in this sense, I want to talk about, how do you forgive yourself? When maybe, you know, you feel like you're not doing a good enough job, or you're overwhelmed, or you're bottled down with so many different responsibilities. What are some of the ways so that everyone who's watching this, not just your staff, but everyone a part of the district, can find ways and unique ways to sort of maybe better forgive themselves for the things that they struggle at, or the things that they don't feel they're good enough at?
Yeah. You know, that's a really good question. And that's something that, to be honest, I struggled with for years. Nobody was more critical of me than me. And within that, I started to realize that I would beat myself up day after day and week after week, to the point where I felt like it was affecting productivity because I was still focused on what I had done wrong in a certain situation or how I feel like I could have done better, instead of just kind of moving on, And so I had to find forgiveness in a sense with myself to say it's okay to make mistakes and to know this is not my first mistake. And it's not my last mistake.
Not going to be your last.
It's definitely not.
Right.
And so once I started realizing like you're going to make mistakes, but how do I respond to those mistakes?
Right.
That's where my growth really took off. How do I respond to that mistake? Do I continue to make that mistake? And so the first thing I need to do is when I make a mistake, I tell myself it's okay. Now what do we do differently? Okay, and then it allowed me it freed me to now let me move on. And so that forgiveness, it also allowed me that I was able to do that easier with other people when they made a mistake. When you're looking at a staff and they make a mistake, to not linger that on as, this is somebody that's going to continue to make mistakes or can't grow from this, or that's just who they are. No, how can I now empower them the same way that in a mistake, that they don't feel beat down, but they feel empowered. If I can forgive myself and build myself up to now move on from this and continue to do great things, I should also be able to forgive others, but empower and build them up.
I love that.
So they have strength within next time, that now they don't have fear when they make a mistake with me.
Right.
It's ownership of, sorry about that, but this is how we can fix it, or this is how we're going to change it moving forward. And so I feel like that was one of the things when I came on board as a principal, was that I wanted my staff to understand that I was truly genuine in that sense, that I'm going to make mistakes. Please forgive me. Yeah. And you're going to make mistakes and I will forgive you. And together we will continue to move forward through this. And so I feel like that was a great relationship piece that I was able to establish with my staff, where I think being genuine, at first. Yeah. And laughter. I'm big on, we're just going to kind of laugh about this. I do staff meetings and everybody can kind of expect that at a staff meeting, there's going to be some jokes, there's going to be some humor, we're going to laugh at each other, we're going to laugh at myself, and sorry about that. And it kind of takes the tension off of things. And so I've kind of seen that become an arching theme in everything we do. Everybody just laughs it off and nobody feels beat down. Right. You forgive me, I forgive you. Let's keep going.
Yeah. And we tell this to our students all the time, right? We say like, hey, it's okay to make a mistake, but you're going to learn from that. And even as coaches, we say this. But the reason why I asked you that question, right, it's so important is do we look in the mirror and do we see ourselves as someone who we're willing to forgive? Right. Not like are other people willing to forgive us, or, oh my gosh, I'm scared of what other people, the person that we see in the mirror every day is the person we have to wake up to and we go to bed at night with, right? Yeah. And so being able to look at ourselves and say, listen, yesterday was yesterday, tomorrow will be tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Today is in this moment and right now. What type of intentional relationships can I build? What type of moments can I have even within myself that takes care of who I am, so that I could be the best version for all of my students and my family and my friends? Today is all about this PD day is like self-reflection too, Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important because we don't get told enough that, hey, listen, it's okay to make mistakes, especially as we become adults, right? I say this to our youth all the time. Hey, listen, you've got an endless amount of opportunities to grow, right? And having my own business, trust me when I tell you, you fail quite a bit, you fail, whether it's losing a contract or not being able to connect with a certain audience or whatever it may be. Everyone is different. There's not a one size fits all solution. So just words of encouragement, take every situation with that, and knowing that's not a one size fits all, that you have the flexibility to make mistakes and grow from them no matter what age you are at. And someone should be looking at you and be willing to forgive you in those things, including you forgiving yourselves. One of the cool things that I was excited to talk about, and I know this is the last one we're talking about, is taking note. Now, I shared with everyone before, right? Taking note is so important because it allows us to take sort of inventory of kind of our life and kind of just where we're going, right? Now, I always talk about the reflection, right? And having a clear vision for life. It's all about where you've been, where you're at, and where you're going. Right. And I think as a leader, and for all of you teachers and administrators who are watching this, it's hard to kind of sometimes when you're caught up in the storm, to kind of keep that vision clear, right?
Right.
And it's hard because when the semester gets rolling and parents have questions and you've got different events that are happening and then there's things that are happening on campus that sometimes are out of your control, how do you keep that vision clear in your life? Right. A lot of it is taking note of the good times, taking note of the bad times. How do you take note? How do you take inventory in your life as a leader that maybe our audience would love to hear on just ways that you continue to just grow as a person and strive for greatness?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a really good question and so relevant to where I am, especially right now in my life and my career. Something that I had not been really big on in the past was reading books. Like as a student in high school, a lot of people didn't know I wasn't, AP student. Matter of fact, I went to a continuation school, which now full circle, here I am, a principal at a continuation school again. But the part that you're saying about taking note became kind of my story, of like, let me just keep track of where I am today and, have I grown? And so recently I've started reading a lot more in the morning. So, now I'm up earlier and I start reading because I feel like every day if I can read 10 pages, 20 pages, and I can take in something new that will kind of keep me open-minded, change my perspective on things. And you start to feel like this sense of growth through those things. And through that process, it's actually started, not so much that I took it as you're saying, like taking note, but I kind of started documenting like, well, where I'm at and what are my goals, and where I'm at. And it basically set up what goals I wanted for Paris Lake, and how do those align with the school district. And it just created this vision for where I want to go. And so with that in mind, I started thinking about, well, where I want to go. And well, you're in the middle of this pandemic and you see, kids, social, emotional, and what they're struggling with and what are the needs. And I think the one great thing that has kind of come from this is, again, taking note, documenting what are the needs, how we get there, but it allowed for this level of creativity within this that normally in education, because you're always sticking to the path and the goal, and this is what we're doing, and it's month by month and that type of thing, where because we didn't know what was to expect tomorrow, we had to be creative. We were allowed to be creative. And actually it allowed for forgiveness if we go back to that, right? Now it's like, okay, I forgive you for trying that because we're trying anything to see. But it allowed that it started showing a way that I now keep track and I have a purpose. I know exactly where we're headed and where I want to go. And there's this flexibility and the creativity right now. And so I'm purposely like tracking day-to-day notes of like where we're at and how we're building and how the kids are doing, and not even just academically, but social, emotional, and their health and their well-being. And as I see that our response is helping them, it changes my notes day to day. That's working, more of this. That's not working, less of that, But it's been very purposeful in a sense to track day to day. So that way, at the end of each semester, at the end of each year, it's very important, especially in what's going on today, to be able to look back and say, these are the things that I was doing. This is where I thought I was headed. That failed, but that also bridged me off to go into this new direction, which is now, doing really well. So again, great question.
And that's what keeps us healthy, right? Like we tell our students, it's always easier said than done, right? And we tell our students things and we look at them dead in the face and we tell them you could become anything you want to be if you work hard. And then yet we look at ourselves and then we say, well, your time has come and gone. And I don't think that's the case, right? Like a big passion of who I am obviously has a lot to do with education, team building, and leadership. But you know this, I had a great conversation with you before we got on camera, is we love film. Yeah. We love film. We think there's a creative process in that allows you to create something from thin air through imagination. And taking note has a lot to do with recentering ourselves to a position that allows us to know that no matter how long it has been since we did something we really loved and enjoyed, we can go back to that place.
Absolutely.
We can take inventory of where we are. And if we're feeling overwhelmed or we're feeling burnt out, do something for yourself. Because when you do something for yourself and you refine that joy in your life, what's going to happen, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna be a happier person. You're going to be more enjoyable to be around, all those sort of things. And it's going to be a true reflection for all of your students that no matter what age you're at, if you can take note and inventory of your life and then continue to pursue your passions, no matter what age, you're going to be an inspiration for the rest of your life, right?
And that's a reflection of what people see when you walk through that door. Again, I wake up, I read, I feel like I've filled my brain with something, or I'll write, I'll do a little journaling, or I'll write. I jump in the car and I might listen to the comedy station on the way to work, and I laugh on the way to work. And by the time I walk through those doors, I think that people see that reflection in my face of somebody that has woken up and got their day started and feeling good about it. And that's a reflection, like the staff, they can feel it. They know that you're ready to take on anything, based on that. So you're absolutely right. Absolutely. When you can kind of replenish yourself, kind of filling your own glass. It's funny, me and my wife say that all the time about that. I can't fill your glass. You have to fill your glass type of thing. But being purposeful in that of like, I know what I need, and giving that for myself each day, funneling that creativity or whatever it may be for anybody, what you enjoy doing. It might be cooking, or whatever it may be. But when you give that time to yourself, the energy that then you can put into each other and the world and our students and community after that, it just changes. It changes the world.
And why I think conversations like this are so good to have, because I could be one person getting it in front of the camera, in front of the audience, and sharing one perspective and about how I do things. But the reality is, like, we all do things so differently. And so hearing from someone else and getting another, point of view is so important, because it's just to say, hey, we started this conversation. We're not alone in this. And many of us have thought this, or many of us are wondering what other people are doing to stay healthy, to stay motivated, to not get burnt out, to stay really focused on the things that they love and enjoy. And hopefully this is just a really quick reminder of all of that as well. So one last question, maybe not even a question, but is there anything you'd like to say to the audience right now who's going to be watching this live?
Yeah.
What are some things or words of encouragement you'd like to leave them with?
Wow. I think that the one thing I want to leave everybody with is just, find purpose in each day, and let that drive you. You will wake up each morning inspired when you find out what that purpose is, and whether that's relationship-wise, whether that's career, whatever it is, when you have a clear understanding of what the purpose and the meaning is each day, there's nothing that fuels you more than knowing what your goal is. And don't give up on yourself, and don't give up on each other. We're all in this together. This is times that no one has ever experienced, as a staff, as students. And so again, going back to the forgiveness, forgive yourself. Tomorrow is a new day. Wake up, have purpose, have goals, forgive one another. And find that energy and that passion to keep pushing through, because I guarantee on the other side of that is something wonderful. There's something that's going to grow and glow within inside of you. And so I just encourage everyone, keep pushing forward. Don't fall stagnant. Don't let these times hold you back. Use this as a time to look back on and say, I overcame. I grew within this. I became a different person, a better person. I made someone else a better person in these times. And I think if we can do that as individuals and as a community, that's where you see the growth in the world.
I love that. And so before we leave this, I shared this with all of you before, but here's what I really want us to do, and it's just a simple reminder, is in taking note, right? We talked about affirming, forgiveness, and taking note. In that sense of taking note, here's what I'd like to do. Over the next week, right? So over next week, I should say, right? Because today's Friday. Next week, what I want all of you to do is really do something. Grab a stack of sticky notes and write each other some notes. for every note that you receive, you have to give 2 notes to somebody else. And so it's really simple. I think this is a way for us to take inventory, to see where people are at, and to have intentional conversations with building each other up and just continuing to encourage this community to grow to new heights. Because when we do that and we're safe and comfortable in who we are as a person, we're only going to help these students grow to be who they're meant to be as well, to live out their purpose in life. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lee, for everything. As we continue to go on, we're going to go through a real quick small break, and then we're going to start AP game time. Thank you so much. Hey, I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.